Marcus Williams returns to his mother's luxurious hotel, but feels like an outsider. Tensions rise as he faces judgment and prepares for a reunion that will force him to confront his past. Will he overcome the challenges ahead? Tune in to hear the full story and discover what happens next. Marcus Williams had just returned from his studies overseas, eager to visit the luxurious Beacon Tower Hotel, a property his mother, Diana Williams, owned. Though he had seen the hotel featured in numerous articles and magazines, this was the first time he would experience it as a guest. After years abroad, he was finally back home and excited to see the legacy his mother had built. The towering hotel gleamed in the afternoon sun, its elegant columns framing the entrance, and golden chandeliers sparkled as light filtered through the massive glass windows. A red carpet stretched out into the grand lobby, where elegantly dressed guests moved gracefully, embodying wealth and privilege. Marcus rolled his suitcase across the polished marble floors, walking through the grand entrance, expecting the level of service befitting such a prestigious establishment. But as soon as he stepped inside, something felt off. It wasn't the grandeur or luxury, it was the way people looked at him. Eyes flicked toward him, assessing and judging. The doorman hesitated before opening the door for him. The bellhop glanced at him, then quickly turned away as if assuming he didn't need any help. At the reception desk sat Rachel Ford, the hotel manager. She was in her early 40s, wearing a tailored black suit with an air of professionalism about her. When Marcus approached, she didn't look up from her computer screen immediately. "Excuse me," Marcus said politely, offering a small smile. "I have a reservation under Marcus Williams." Rachel's eyes briefly scanned him, from his high-end sneakers to his tailored pants and pressed shirt. When her gaze landed on his skin, her expression subtly shifted, just a hint of skepticism in her eyes. "Are you sure you're at the right place?" she asked, her tone formal but with an underlying dismissiveness. Marcus remained calm and steady. "Yes, I'm certain. Here's my confirmation," he said, pulling out his phone and offering it to her. Rachel quickly grabbed his phone, glanced at it briefly, then handed it back without even checking the computer. "Humph," she muttered, clearly unimpressed, before beginning to type at a slow pace, as if looking for a problem instead of a solution. Meanwhile, other guests checked in smoothly, receiving their room keys within moments, while Marcus was left waiting. Minutes passed, 5 minutes, then 10. His patience was starting to wear thin. He stood up and walked back to the desk. "Excuse me, could you check my reservation again?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Rachel looked up, briefly surprised that he was still standing there. "It seems I can't find your reservation," she said flatly, not meeting his eyes. "Are you sure you booked here?" Marcus clenched his jaw but kept his voice even. "I have an email confirmation if you'd like to see it again." Rachel sighed, clearly irritated. "That won't be necessary," she said before adding, "We don't allow walk-ins for suites." Marcus felt a cold wave of frustration wash over him, but he took a deep breath to calm himself. "I booked the penthouse suite," he said, trying to remain composed. Rachel raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "We don't typically reserve penthouses for people like you," she said, her tone now more dismissive than before. "I'm afraid you'll have to leave." Marcus's heart pounded in his chest. He had come all this way, only to be turned away by someone so blatantly prejudiced. But he wasn't about to give up. Just as Marcus was about to respond, a voice rang out from behind him. "Is there a problem here?" Diana Williams, his mother, appeared in the lobby, her tall, imposing figure drawing the attention of everyone around. Rachel froze when she saw Diana, immediately straightening up and putting on a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "No problem, Miss Williams," Rachel said quickly, her tone shifting to one of forced politeness. "Your son's reservation just seemed to have been misplaced." Diana's eyes narrowed as she scanned the scene. She looked at Rachel for a long moment before turning her gaze to Marcus. "Everything's fine, Marcus?" she asked, her voice calm, but with a subtle edge of concern. "Everything's fine, Mom," Marcus replied, though he could feel the sting of the situation in his chest. He knew exactly what had happened. Rachel had assumed he didn't belong here, and it was only when his mother showed up that the treatment changed. Diana turned back to Rachel, her expression hardening. "I'm sorry, Rachel. But if you ever question my son again like this, I will be forced to reconsider your position here, she said, her voice leaving no room for argument. Rachel's face paled slightly, but she nodded quickly, clearly not wanting to push the issue any further. The tension in the room dissolved, and Rachel quickly handed over Marcus's room key, her hands trembling slightly. "Here is your key, Mr. Williams. Your suite is on the top floor." Diana took the key from Rachel's hand, not missing the small shake in her fingers. "Thank you, Rachel," she said coldly, before guiding Marcus toward the elevator. As they walked away, Diana whispered to him, "I'm sorry you had to go through that, Marcus. People can be cruel sometimes." As the elevator doors closed, Marcus let out a sigh of relief, but also a deep sense of anger. He was angry at how easily people judged him based on his appearance and skin color. "I've been through worse," Marcus said, trying to brush off the encounter, but Diana could see the frustration in his eyes. "I know, sweetheart. I know," she replied softly, her hand resting on his shoulder. The elevator hummed as it ascended, the only sound in the otherwise silent space. Marcus leaned against the wall, his mind racing with thoughts of everything that had just happened. His mother stood beside him, still watching him carefully. She could tell that he was upset, but he was trying to hold it together. "I just don't understand why some people have to be like that," Marcus said, breaking the silence. "It's not fair." Diana exhaled slowly, her expression softening. "You're right, it's not fair, but that's how some people are. They let their fear and ignorance dictate their actions." She paused for a moment, allowing her words to settle. "But you, Marcus, you're better than them. You know who you are, and that's what matters. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." The elevator dinged as it reached the top floor, and the doors opened to reveal a lavish hallway. The suite was just a few steps away, and Diana led the way, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. As they approached the suite, Marcus could feel a sense of discomfort settle over him. Despite the luxury that surrounded him, he couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider. "Here we are," Diana said, pushing open the door to the suite. The interior was nothing short of spectacular. Floor-to-ceiling windows with an incredible view of the city, a plush king-size bed, and elegant decor that exuded wealth and sophistication. Marcus stepped inside, his eyes scanning the room, but he couldn't help feeling like he didn't belong. Diana noticed his hesitation and placed a reassuring hand on his back. "You belong here, Marcus. Never forget that." Marcus looked at his mother, a faint smile appearing on his face. "Thanks, Mom," he said, his voice quiet but sincere. "I'm just tired of the way things are sometimes." Diana smiled back, her expression softening. "I know, sweetheart, but you've got to remember things won't change overnight. It takes time, and the most important thing is that you keep believing in yourself." The suite felt like a temporary escape, a place where Marcus could recharge and forget about the harsh realities outside. But as he stood by the window, gazing out at the city lights below, he couldn't shake the nagging thought that the world he lived in was still full of prejudice and unfairness. Despite everything, he knew one thing for certain: he would never stop fighting for a better future. Marcus sat down on the edge of the plush bed, his mind still swirling with everything that had happened earlier. The room, so grand and beautiful, seemed to mock his feelings of alienation. He ran his hand through his hair, sighing deeply. It feels like no matter how far I've come, people still see me the same way." Diana, standing by the window, turned to face him. Her voice was calm but full of understanding. "I know it feels that way, sweetheart, but you can't let their perceptions define you." She walked over to him, sitting down next to him on the bed. "You've worked hard to get where you are. You've earned this, and one bad experience won't change who you are." Marcus turned his head to look at her, his eyes filled with gratitude. He reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "Thanks, Mom. You always know what to say." He smiled faintly, the weight on his shoulders lightening a little. "I just wish the world could see me the way you do." Diana smiled back at him, her expression warm but serious. "You have to be your own strength, Marcus. People may try to define you by your past or your appearance, but you are so much more than that." She paused, making sure he understood the weight of her words. "You're a force to be reckoned with. Don't ever forget that." Marcus nodded, feeling a newfound sense of resolve. The frustration from earlier still lingered, but now he could see things more clearly. He wasn't going to let anyone make him feel small, not again. "I won't forget, Mom. Thanks for always having my back." He stood up, determination filling him once more. As he walked toward the window looking out at the city below, his reflection stared back at him. For a moment, he didn't recognize the person staring back. It wasn't just the way the world saw him, it was the way he saw himself. But in that moment, he knew he wasn't defined by what others thought. He was more than enough. Diana joined him by the window, standing silently beside him. For a while, neither of them spoke, but the quiet was not uncomfortable. It was a quiet of understanding, of shared experience. Finally, Diana spoke, her voice softer than before. "The world can be a hard place, but you have something many don't. Strength. And that strength will carry you further than you ever thought possible." Marcus turned to face her, a look of quiet gratitude in his eyes. "I'm ready, Mom. Whatever happens next, I'm ready to face it." With a final glance at the city, he felt the weight of his journey settle into his chest. But it wasn't a burden. It was a purpose. The next day, Marcus woke up to the sound of his phone vibrating on the nightstand. He groggily reached for it, his eyes still heavy with sleep. The screen lit up with a message from his old friend Chris. "Hey man, you still up for the game tonight? It's been a while, we should catch up." The message was simple, but it reminded Marcus of a time before all the challenges he'd been facing recently. Marcus felt a flicker of nostalgia. It had been so long since he had done anything carefree, something just for fun. He hadn't realized how much he missed those simpler moments. He quickly typed a response, his fingers moving with a sense of urgency. "I'm in. Let's meet up at 7. After sending the message, he tossed the phone aside and sat up in bed. He wasn't sure if he was ready to reconnect with the past, but something told him that this might be the perfect opportunity to reclaim a part of himself he had almost forgotten. The rest of the day passed in a blur of errands and thoughts of what the evening would bring. As he dressed in a casual outfit, looking at himself in the mirror, Marcus couldn't help but feel a little nervous. He hadn't seen Chris in years, and though they had shared a strong bond in their youth, time and distance had created a lot of uncertainty. When he arrived at the basketball court later that evening, he was greeted by the familiar sounds of sneakers squeaking on the hardwood, the bounce of the ball, and the hum of excited chatter. It was a small reminder of the life he had once known, a life that felt like a distant memory. Chris was there, dribbling the ball and talking to some old friends. When he saw Marcus, a big grin spread across his face. "Yo, Marcus! Long time, man! You ready to show us your moves or what?" Marcus laughed, the tension in his chest easing slightly. "I don't know if I've still got it, but I'm down for a game." He tossed his jacket aside and walked onto the court, feeling a little more like the person he used to be. The game started, and for the first time in a long while, Marcus felt completely immersed in something outside of his worries. As the ball passed between teammates, he found himself laughing, playing, and even making a few impressive shots. The court felt like a second home, a place where he could just be himself. As the game wound down and the players gathered on the sidelines, Chris clapped Marcus on the back. "Man, you've still got it. I forgot how good you were." Marcus smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. "Thanks, man. It feels good to be back out here." He took a deep breath, realizing that for the first time in a while, he wasn't thinking about his struggles, his past, or his future. He was just in the moment. As they all sat down to grab a drink, Chris turned to him. "So, what's been going on with you? You've been kind of quiet lately." Marcus hesitated for a moment. He wasn't sure how much he wanted to reveal, but something about the familiar atmosphere made him feel safe enough to open up. "It's been complicated. I've been dealing with some things, trying to find my place in the world." Chris nodded, his expression softening. "I get that. Life's been tough for all of us. But you're not alone, Marcus. You've got people who care about you." Marcus smiled, grateful for the reassurance. He knew he had a long road ahead of him, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like he was walking it alone.